What if I told you this? You're not exhausted because life is inherently difficult. You're exhausted because you're carrying burdens that were never meant to be yours. Day after day, you replay conversations in your mind, overanalyzing every word, chasing approval from people who don't even respect themselves, let alone you. You try to predict moods, fix outcomes, and control futures that were never yours to command in the first place. And in doing so, you're slowly draining the life out of your own peace. You see, the exhaustion you feel isn't born from effort. It's born from illusion. The illusion that you can control everything outside of yourself. They've taught you to grip tightly to things you have no business holding, to care too much about what others think, to anticipate, to calculate, to manipulate situations so you could feel safe, accepted, validated. And before you knew it, your mind became a battlefield, a place you couldn't escape, fighting wars that were never truly yours. But here's the truth. No one told you. The tighter you grip, the faster it all slips away. The only way to win the game you were never meant to play is to stop playing it altogether. This right here is your wake-up call. Let go of the rope. Not because you're giving up, but because you've finally understood that control is a cage and detachment is the key. Not numbness, not avoidance, but the sharp clarity of emotional intelligence. Not running from life, but building boundaries so solid, so immovable, that chaos no longer gets in without your permission. From this moment forward, your strength won't come from trying harder. It will come from letting go. Intentionally. Precisely. From now on, you won't react. You'll respond. You won't chase approval. You'll choose peace. You won't beg for calm. You'll become it. And here's the secret. The fewer things that own space in your mind, the more dangerous, resilient, and untouchable you become. I hold nothing. Nothing holds me. This is the shift. The shift only 1% of people ever dare to make. The shift from being controlled by everything around you to becoming unshakable within. And now, it's your turn. Let's begin. For so long, you've been taught that control equals strength. Control your schedule, control your appearance, control your outcomes, and most of all, control how others see you, respond to you, accept you. Sounds powerful, doesn't it? But here's the brutal truth the Stoics understood over 2,000 years ago. Control isn't power. It's a trap. What most people call control is simply attachment wearing a clever disguise. It's not clarity they seek, it's guarantees. It's not peace they want. It's certainty. And it's never the truth they're after. It's the comfort of everything going their way, exactly when and how they imagined it. The result? A life lived in constant, quiet tension. You step into a meeting and someone disagrees with you. Your mood collapses. A friend leaves your message on read, and you spiral for hours. A plan falls apart, and so do you. That's not leadership. That's dependency. And it's a silent epidemic, especially among high performers who convince themselves they're in control, when in reality, they've built their confidence on shifting sand, on conditions they don't own, and outcomes they can't command. Epictetus said it best. There is only one way to happiness. Stop worrying about things beyond your control. And that, my friend, wasn't just a nice philosophy for the ancient world. It was survival. And for you, in this exact moment, it's your first step toward liberation. You see, detachment was never about being distant or cold. It was about survival. The ancient Stoics didn't preach detachment to sound clever or to impress with wise-sounding phrases. No, they practiced it because they understood exactly what happens to a person when their peace depends on things as unstable as the wind. One careless comment, a delay you didn't expect, or a simple rejection, and suddenly your entire inner world crumbles. Why? Because you were never firmly rooted in yourself to begin with. Now let's bring this wisdom into modern life. Imagine this. If your happiness today depends on how kindly someone speaks to you, whether your plans unfold perfectly, how many likes your post receives, or whether the market aligns with your ambition, then the brutal truth is, you're not in control. You are being controlled. Controlled by randomness, by external approval, by outcomes you can't dictate. And here's the tragedy that so few realize. Most people live their entire lives this way, building their identity, their self-worth, and their peace of mind on land they don't own. They unknowingly become emotional landlords, constantly negotiating for a little peace in places they have no authority over, trying to secure calm in territories where chaos always has the upper hand. And this is where true emotional intelligence begins. Not by suppressing emotions, not by pretending you don't care, but by understanding exactly where those emotions come from. Not by striving to win every single situation, but by choosing which battles are even worth entering. Emotional mastery begins the moment you stop tying your worth to things you were never meant to govern. You don't need to control everything around you to feel calm. You only need to master one thing, how you choose to interpret what happens to you. That's where true power lives. That's the real shift. So instead of asking, why is this happening to me? Train yourself to ask, is this even mine to control? And if the honest answer is no, then you already know what to do. Release it. Not out of defeat, but out of wisdom. Not because you've stopped caring, but because you care too deeply about the things that truly matter. Your energy, your clarity, your direction. This is what mental resilience looks like. The ability to stay calm when outcomes are unknown, to remain steady when the world refuses to follow your plan. It's the trait that separates those who panic from those who quietly lead themselves forward. So the next time life veers off course, don't chase control. Chase clarity. Ask yourself the ancient Stoic question. What is within my power right now? And if the answer is nothing, then your next move is obvious. Let go and move on. You've been conditioned to pour your focus and energy into external things, your job, your relationships, your ambitions, your reputation. But here's the paradox. The more you invest outward, the more vulnerable you become inward. Every time you tie your peace to something you don't own, you're handing over the keys to your emotional well-being. And that isn't strength. That's emotional outsourcing. The Stoics understood this on a profound level. They didn't aim to control the external world because they knew it was impossible. Instead, they focused on mastering the one thing they truly owned, themselves. You have power over your mind, not outside events, Marcus Aurelius wrote. Realize this, and you will find strength. They weren't escapists, hiding from life. They were architects, not of walls, but of fortresses built within. And now, that's your task. Not to manipulate life's chaos, but to create an inner order so unshakable, so resilient, that no storm can reach it. Because here's the ultimate truth. You can lose a job, you can be betrayed, you can be insulted, rejected, or overlooked. But if you've built a strong enough internal operating system, you don't fall, you adapt. And that, my friend, is what high performers often misunderstand. In the last chapter, we uncovered the truth that real strength comes from mastering yourself, not the outside world. Now let's take that wisdom one step deeper. Many people believe that resilience means pushing harder, grinding through the obstacles, and refusing to quit no matter how rough things get. But Stoic resilience, it's a different kind of strength altogether. It's not about relentless force. It's about becoming unshakable because you're grounded in something far deeper than external circumstances. Picture this, your mind as a fortress, cold, silent, secure, not because you no longer feel anything, but because you've trained yourself to filter what deserves entry. Not because you suppress emotions, but because you rule them. Your thoughts, your attention, your emotional energy, these are your currency. And like any wise leader, you don't hand out your resources to anyone who happens to knock on your gate. True self-leadership begins when you stop reacting to every whim of the world and start commanding your inner world. Let me ask you, when someone disrespects you, do you crumble? When plans fall apart, do you spiral into frustration? When people withdraw their attention, do you beg for validation? If your honest answer is yes, it means your inner fortress has cracks. But here's the good news. Don't panic. This isn't about shame. It's about strategy. You don't build inner peace overnight. You build it the same way a skilled general fortifies his stronghold, brick by brick, through discipline in your daily habits, through precision in your thoughts, through the power of silence when the noise of the world demands a reaction, through firm boundaries when life tries to hijack your attention for free. Understand this. Emotional intelligence isn't the absence of emotion. It's the mastery of emotional focus. And when you master that, you become unreadable, unshakable. That's where real power is born. Not in being the loudest voice in the room, not in controlling others, but in becoming so composed that no one else can control you. Most people crumble because they've never learned to sit quietly with themselves. But you're about to learn how to fortify your solitude. Not to run away from the world, but to lead yourself through it with steady, relentless clarity. So here's a question for you. Is your inner world strong enough to weather the storms you cannot predict? If the answer is no, then it's time to start building. Because this world doesn't need more reactors, more people triggered by every word, every comment, every setback. It needs more fortresses. Now imagine your mind as a sacred, ancient fortress. Ask yourself, how many back doors have you left wide open? How many people have unrestricted access to your peace? How many useless, petty thoughts wander through your gates without permission? How much time and attention have you wasted on things that add zero strategic value to your life? And here's the uncomfortable truth no one likes to admit. Most people don't control their thoughts. Their thoughts control them. They wake up and immediately reach for their phones. They let headlines, comments, and social media algorithms hijack their attention before their feet even touch the floor. They absorb the chaos of the world, and then they wonder why they can't find calm. That's not intelligence. That's internal anarchy. The Stoics had a word for the exact opposite of this mental chaos, eudaimonia, a state of flourishing, inner order, and clarity. But listen carefully. You cannot flourish when your mind is constantly leaking focus and discipline. Epictetus had a sharp, unapologetic reminder for those who truly wish to improve. If you want to make progress, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. What does that mean? It means stop decorating your mind for other people's approval. Start defending it like a sacred fortress. Because mental discipline isn't about suppressing thoughts. It's about selection. You don't waste your energy trying to stop every thought from entering your mind. You simply decide which ones get to stay. You train your brain like an elite military unit. Weak, insecure thoughts, discarded, victim beliefs, deleted, emotional noise, silenced, regrets about the past, cut, fantasies about things you can't control, removed. That's how you reclaim your mind. In the last chapter, we talked about training your mind like an elite unit, carefully selecting which thoughts deserve to stay and which ones must be discarded. Now, let's make that practical. Let's turn that wisdom into a daily discipline. Here's how it works. Every time a thought enters your mind, pause and ask yourself a few critical questions. Does this serve my mission? Is this within my control? Will this matter in 10 minutes, in 10 months, or in 10 years? Am I focusing on what's real, or am I reacting to someone else's illusion? Because if the answer to any of these is no, you don't entertain the thought. You eliminate it. Why? Because every time you indulge a worthless thought, you're feeding the very mental disorder that keeps you anxious, tired, and reactive. And here's the part no one ever tells you. Discipline is the true foundation of peace. Without discipline, even meditation turns into a performance. Even calm becomes something temporary, easily shattered by the next insult, setback, or storm. That's why high-performance thinkers, leaders, and Stoics don't rely on fleeting motivation. They rely on filtration. They build psychological boundaries, the way a soldier builds checkpoints. Not every thought is allowed to enter. Not every voice deserves to be heard. Not every feeling is worthy of being analyzed. And certainly not every comment warrants a reply. Because in this modern world, attention is the new currency. And your job, if you want to rise above the noise, is to become a strategic investor, not an emotional gambler. Invest your mental energy where the return is clarity, control, and growth. So the next time your mind starts to spin out of control, catch it. Pause. Don't believe everything you feel. Don't trust every thought your brain throws at you. You are not your thoughts. You are the commander of them. That's real emotional intelligence. It's not about being calm for a quick 10-minute meditation session. It's about being in control of your inner world hour by hour, especially when the world outside is chaotic and loud. Most people walk through life with their gates wide open, wondering why they feel so drained, so reactive, so defeated. But you're building something different. A mind that doesn't just survive in chaos. A mind that outperforms it. And it all begins with the discipline to say, this thought doesn't serve me. It ends here. Because every thought you master adds another stone to the mental fortress. No storm can shake. Understand this. The moment you react emotionally, you hand over strategic control. And the world is full of triggers. Disrespect, manipulation, betrayal, shouts and provocations. Every time you flinch, argue, explain, or justify yourself, you're announcing your weakness. You're showing people exactly where to push and giving them the remote control to your emotions. But the Stoics weren't passive. They weren't emotionless. They were powerful precisely because they chose when and how to respond. They didn't react to insults. They observed them. They didn't panic when chaos erupted. They breathed through it. Because they understood. Something most people never do. Reaction is submission. Observation is dominance. When someone disrespects you and you snap back, you lose. When someone provokes you and you retaliate, you confirm their power over you. But when you respond with calm, with measured silence, you become unreadable, unpredictable, untouchable. And trust me, that terrifies people far more than any loud, angry reaction ever could in high-performance environments, whether it's leadership, negotiations, combat, or elite sport. The person who stays calm the longest, who refuses to react when others lose their composure, that person controls the room. And if you learn this, you won't just survive life's chaos. You'll command it. In the last chapter, we learned that the one who stays calm the longest controls the room. Now, it's time to understand how to train that unshakable calm, and why it's the deadliest advantage you'll ever have. Here's the truth. You don't avoid reacting by accident. You avoid reacting by design. Between every stimulus and your response, there is a brief, invisible space, a pause. And in that tiny, seemingly insignificant split second, your power is forged. That's the moment where you decide whether to act with clarity or emotion, to lead the interaction or be dragged into it, to operate from calm, internal command or spiral into outer chaos. The harsh truth is that most people never use this pause. They move through life as walking emotional landmines, waiting for something or someone to trigger them. But you will turn that pause into a weapon. And let's be clear, not reacting doesn't mean you don't feel. It means you don't perform for people who haven't earned the right to your energy. You let them wonder. You let them guess. You let them create their little stories about you. Because while they're unraveling, you're calculating. That's called psychological asymmetry. And it's lethal. This is why emotional regulation isn't soft. It's a form of elite mental strength. You don't flinch. You don't panic. You don't need to prove yourself in the heat of the moment. You're not fighting for your ego's comfort. You're playing for command. The next time someone disrespects you, don't react. Just pause. Just stare. Let the silence speak for you. Let their fire burn out, trying to provoke your ice. Because in every room, the one who remains calm when the heat rises is the one people start to fear and follow. Marcus Aurelius said it best. If someone provokes you, remember, it is your choice whether or not to be disturbed. And that choice, made over and over, is what separates the Stoic warrior from the emotional puppet. There's a kind of strength this world often misunderstands. The strength to walk away. Not because you're angry, not because you're afraid, but because you see things with absolute, ruthless clarity. Most people confuse detachment with coldness. It's not. Detachment is precision. It's the art of refusing to bleed for things that no longer serve your peace or your mission. You don't leave because you don't care. You leave because you care too deeply about your energy, your time, and your peace of mind. That's not weakness. That's mental sovereignty. He who is brave is free, said Seneca, and nothing demands more bravery than letting go, cleanly, without rage, without long-winded explanations. Strategic detachment means this. You don't chase closure. You create it. You don't explain your standards to people who were never meant to meet them. You enforce them without apology. You don't get consumed by what falls apart. You step over the rubble and move forward, untouched. Let's be honest. Most people carry dead weight, friendships that drain them, relationships that manipulate them, goals they never chose for themselves. Expectations inherited from people long gone. They waste years trying to repair what was broken by design. But here's the brutal truth. You can't rescue what is determined to self-destruct. You can't stabilize outcomes built on instability. And you are not obligated to keep bleeding for a story that no longer fits your future. Detachment, at its highest form, is an act of strategic self-respect. You set your own exit point. You decide where your attention belongs and where it no longer deserves to go. And when a person, a situation, or a thought no longer aligns with your mission, you cut it off. Not with cruelty, not with malice, but with precise, calculated finality. Because the truth is, not everyone deserves closure. Not every situation deserves a reaction. And not every loss is a tragedy. Some are secret victories in disguise. A quiet kind of liberation. Here's a rule every high-performance mind lives by. Never attach to anything you cannot walk away from in 5 seconds the moment it threatens your clarity, your code, or your peace. That's not detachment from life. That's mastery over it. In the last chapter, we learned the importance of never attaching to anything you can't walk away from when it threatens your peace. Now let's go deeper into what true detachment really means, and how it sharpens your power in ways most people will never comprehend. Understand this. Detachment isn't about removing yourself from people. It's about removing yourself from dependency. It means being fully present, but never entangled. It means caring about what matters, but never collapsing when it shifts. It means feeling everything life throws at you, but being owned by nothing. This mindset is what makes you move faster than those still stuck debating what to do, cleaner than those drowning in petty drama, sharper than those addicted to chasing closure. Detachment is what lets you move through life like a ghost, silent, efficient, untouchable. Comment this now. I walk light. I cut sharp. I owe nothing to what drains me. That is emotional minimalism, tactical indifference, and it's one of your greatest hidden powers. You see, most people think power is about presence, about being seen, being loud, being everywhere at once. But real power, true power, it's about being missed. The moment you learn to disappear on purpose is the moment you stop playing their game. It's the moment you start redesigning the entire board. Absence isn't weakness. It's a psychological weapon, and most people have no defense against it. Why? Because in a world addicted to attention, the one who withdraws their energy becomes untouchable. Think about it. People expect you to engage. They crave your reactions. They feed off your presence. So when you take it away, you create a vacuum, a silence, a question mark. Why did they go quiet? What are they thinking? Are they coming back? Did I lose them forever? That isn't confusion. That's control. The Stoics understood the power of stepping back, not as a retreat, but as a strategic repositioning. Marcus Aurelius said it best. Nowhere you can go is more peaceful than your own soul. But peace isn't passive, it's positioning. When you practice strategic absence, something powerful happens. You break the world's rhythm. You force reflection. You introduce uncertainty. And in that uncertainty, you regain leverage. You're no longer reacting to the world. You're quietly redirecting it by disappearing from it just long enough to disturb the balance. So let's get tactical. When someone disrespects you, don't argue. Don't explain. Fall silent. When a situation turns toxic, don't plead. Don't over-explain. Vanish. When the energy around you turns chaotic, don't beg for peace. Become peace itself. And in that silence you create, something remarkable happens. It becomes a mirror. People see themselves in it, and often they can't stand the reflection. Here's a law of executive mindset you must remember. The more available you are, the more expendable you become. Your scarcity builds demand. Your silence builds mystery. Your absence builds power. Not because they fear you'll return with force, but because they realize they lost access to something they never truly understood. Emotional intelligence at this elite level isn't about manipulating others. It's about being in such complete command of yourself that others simply can't afford to lose your presence, and yet you make them live without it. That's what high-performance detachment looks like. That's what luxury-level leadership feels like. Comment this now. My absence is a mirror. My silence is control. You've learned how to detach. Now, let's take it even further. In the last chapter, you learned the subtle art of disappearing. With purpose. Withdrawing not in weakness, but to gain control and command. Now, it's time to learn why the Stoic doesn't just stay calm. He becomes unreadable. If they can read you, they can reach you. And if they can reach you, they can control you. That's why, in a world where everyone overshares, where people post every thought, every feeling, and every passing moment of their lives, the person who reveals nothing becomes unsettling, even terrifying. People don't fear your visible strength. They fear what they can't predict. So let me ask you this. Are you leaving trails for others to follow? Or are you vanishing into mystery? Most people can't help but advertise their insecurity. It shows up in nervous laughs, in over-explaining, in desperate, impulsive texts, in passive-aggressive remarks, or in trying too hard to prove something. They narrate their emotions to the world, broadcasting their weakness with every word. They make themselves easy to map, predictable, vulnerable, exposed. But you're choosing to go dark. Not because you're hollow inside, but because your depth has no surface. You've built a mind so layered, so vast, that no one can find the edges. Because here's where psychological power begins. At the point where predictability ends, think like a strategist. The more information you reveal, the easier you are to defeat. The more emotions you leak, the more leverage others gain. The more you defend yourself, the more they know exactly where to strike. That's why stillness isn't just silence. It's structure. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. But if you recklessly expose every thought, you're allowing the world to repaint your mind." The Stoic doesn't do this. The Stoic guards his thoughts like a seasoned general guards a fortress. Every word is chosen. Every gesture is intentional. Every silence is strategically placed. Now here's how to become unreadable in real life. Say less than you know. Speak only when your words serve the outcome, not your ego. Train your face. Your expression should be neutral, not numb, but calm. Not cold, but controlled. Keep them guessing. Let them misunderstand you. Let them assume. Don't correct. Collect. Because the more you're misunderstood, the more you hold the advantage of ambiguity. You don't owe anyone your inner world. You don't need to explain your standards. You don't need to justify your silence, and you never need to argue for your worth. Let your discipline speak louder than any explanation. Let your absence raise more questions than your presence ever could. Let your stillness become legend, because when you're unreadable, you become unshakable. This is mental warfare at the highest level, not because you're manipulating others, but because you refuse to be manipulated. You don't, React impulsively, you respond when it's strategic. You don't reveal, you observe. Total command. Comment this now. They can't play what they can't read. My silence is my sword. And we're not finished yet, because in the final chapter we'll reach the highest level a Stoic mind can achieve, the untouchable state. Not emotionless, not cold, but forged by fire and no longer flinching in the face of anything. Let's go deeper. There's a place beyond silence, beyond detachment, beyond discipline. It's the state where your peace is no longer a reaction. It's your default. Where you no longer need the world to behave a certain way because you've mastered the only domain that ever mattered, yourself. And let me tell you, this state doesn't come from avoiding pain. It comes from walking through it and refusing to flinch. You've been lied to. You were taught that strength means controlling everything around you. But the real elite, the spiritually disciplined, the mentally ruthless, know a higher truth. In the last chapter, we talked about reaching a state beyond silence, a place where your peace is no longer a reaction, but your default. Now, let's uncover exactly what it takes to get there, and why so few ever do. Here's the truth. You don't control the world. You only control one thing. Your relentless need to control. To reach the untouchable state, you'll need to kill certain parts of yourself. Not your kindness, not your humanity, but those attachments that chain you to weakness. Your hunger for validation, your addiction to being understood, your compulsion to defend your name, and your emotional dependence on being seen, chosen, or liked. And understand this. This isn't just emotional intelligence. This is spiritual discipline. This is becoming the version of yourself that no longer negotiates with weakness. You sit inside your own mind like a battle-tested general in command, calm, focused, unavailable to chaos. Let's be clear. The untouchable state is not about being cold. It's not about shutting down or becoming numb to the world. It's about being impenetrable without being hardened. It's about feeling everything. The wins, the losses, the beauty, the betrayal, but leaking nothing. You still love, you still care, but you never collapse when things don't go your way. You don't chase closure. You become it. You don't beg for peace. You embody it. This level of self-mastery turns you into a paradox. Warm, but unreadable. Present, but uninvested. Fully aware, yet owned by nothing. And that, right there, is why so few people ever reach this state. It demands that you trade comfort for clarity, that you exchange chaos for command. And here's the irony. The moment you stop needing to be understood, you start being respected. The moment you stop explaining, you begin moving in powerful silence. And when you no longer flinch, no one can figure out what will ever break you. Because truth is, nothing can. Now apply this practically. When someone insults you, you don't even register it. Their words can't touch the identity you've forged alone, in solitude. When someone ghosts you, you don't spiral, you recenter. When you lose something or someone, you don't fall apart. You adjust your perimeter, not your worth. You refine, you redirect, and you rise again, sharper. The untouchable state is also your highest performing self. Why? Because when your mind is no longer hijacked by emotion, you move with surgical precision. You stop rushing to prove things. You stop reacting to bait. You stop chasing what was never meant for you. Every move becomes clean, calculated, and high impact. That's what leaders, visionaries, and warriors have in common. They don't just move, they move from a place of inner command. And here's the final shift. This is no longer just stoicism you're practicing. It's your operating system now. You no longer adapt your peace to fit the world. You make the world adjust to your peace. You become the man or woman who walks into chaos and doesn't blink. The one people whisper about in rooms you've already left. The one who no longer plays their game. Because you've learned to write the rules. Comment this now. My peace is not a negotiation. My mind is my kingdom. And understand, you made it here because you were ready. You didn't skip the fire. You didn't break under pressure. You stayed inside the heat until only steel remained. And from this moment forward, you don't just practice stoicism. You embody it. Not in loud words, not in attention-seeking noise, but in a silence so steady, it shakes the entire room. You, right now, are untouchable. And that is your ultimate freedom. In a world where emotional overload has become the norm, emotional minimalism is a radical, rebellious act. Most people live with their feelings splattered on the outside, exposed, vulnerable, and easily manipulated. But not you. In the last chapter, we uncovered the power of becoming untouchable, not through coldness, but through mastery of yourself. Now let's talk about how most people live the exact opposite way, and how the Stoic mind rises above it. Most people live on edge, reacting to every comment, every silence, every shift in someone else's mood as if it's a personal attack or a threat to their existence. They allow other people's chaos to invade their peace. But a Stoic mind learns to strip all that down, to move light, to cut clean, to stop bleeding out energy for things that were never meant to stay in their life. Let's make this clear. Letting go doesn't mean you never cared. It means you finally refused to carry what was never yours to hold in the first place. So hear this truth plainly. You weren't meant to carry everyone's expectations, emotions, or burdens. You weren't built to fix things that were broken by design. You don't owe anyone an explanation for your peace, especially not to those committed to misunderstanding you. You were meant to master one thing, yourself. That's it. Everything else? It's background noise. Their opinions. Their drama. Their endless narratives. All of it is static. And if you don't learn to mute that static, it will drown out your mission. So what exactly is emotional minimalism? It's not apathy. It's not cold detachment. It's clarity. It's the discipline of saying to yourself, my energy isn't cheap, my peace isn't up for negotiation, and my boundaries aren't soft. Imagine your emotional energy as currency. Most people spend it like loose change, tossing it into pointless arguments, giving it away to people who take more than they give, and pouring it into outcomes they can't possibly control. But those with high-performance minds, they treat their energy like capital. They invest it where it multiplies. They fund what grows them, and they cut what drains them. This is how Stoicism transforms from philosophy to a mindset of real emotional intelligence. Because when you stop needing to be understood, you gain the freedom to move in silence. You gain the strength to walk away without a dramatic explanation. You realize that peace isn't something you chase. It's something you fiercely protect. And anything that costs you your peace is too expensive. The moment you stop leaking energy into battles that aren't yours, you start building a mind that cannot be broken. And here's a simple practice. When the urge comes to respond, pause. When your heart wants to hold on, pause. When your mind spins endless what-if scenarios about things that haven't even happened, pause, and then ask yourself, does this deserve my energy, my voice, my presence? If the answer is no, let it go. Clean cut. No bleeding, no begging. No long story to justify it. Emotional minimalism isn't about becoming heartless. It's about becoming harder to disturb, not out of fear, not from numbness, but out of deep, strategic self-respect. You don't need to be loud to be powerful. You don't need to prove your worth by showing endless patience for the wrong people. You don't need to fight battles that offer you no growth, no clarity, and no peace. What you need, what every Stoic builds, is precision. Precision with your attention, precision with your effort, precision with your emotions. So start now. Stop writing paragraphs to people who ignore your sentences. Stop watering connections that dry you out. Stop being emotionally available to those who weaponize your kindness. This is the sharp edge of emotional intelligence. It's not soft, it's not sentimental, it's tactical. Say less, care wisely, let go early. Because bleeding for what you can't control isn't noble. It's self-abandonment. And you weren't born to abandon yourself. You're here to master yourself. Comment this now. I protect my peace like a fortress. I cut clean. I carry nothing. That cuts me. And there comes a point along the Stoic path where you no longer flinch at the storm. Not because the world got quieter, but because you became louder inside. You don't react. You don't explain. You don't prove. You hold. Your ground. That's what mastery looks like. Stillness in motion. Presence under pressure. Discipline under fire. In the last chapter, we saw how true mastery is about holding your ground. Stillness in motion, presence under pressure. Now let's face one final truth. The world won't suddenly get easier, and that was never the point. The truth is, life won't soften for you. The people around you won't magically become wiser, kinder, or more consistent. Circumstances won't suddenly align just because you wish they would. But here's the thing. That was never the requirement. The requirement, the only thing that was ever asked of you, is that you change, that you evolve, that you become untouchable, not by force, but by careful design. You don't escape the world. You rise above its noise. You don't fight for power. You become the source of it. This final state isn't about control over others. It's about command over yourself, your mind, your emotions, your reactions, your energy. And here's the paradox most never realize. The less you try to control everything, the more powerful you actually become. Because real influence isn't loud. It doesn't beg to be noticed. It exists silently, but powerfully, shifting the energy of every room it enters. And what does that look like in practice? It looks like a man who no longer chases status because he's anchored in purpose. It looks like a woman who no longer over-explains herself because every move she makes is deliberate, precise. It looks like a leader who never needs to shout because his very presence speaks for him. Your final form isn't about perfection. It's about consistency. In your values, your discipline, your personal code. The one who lives by a code becomes immune to chaos, because chaos survives on reaction, and your stillness is the lock it can't pick. From this moment forward, you live by a higher standard, self-governance. You no longer rent your identity to trends, to triggers, or to the shifting winds of other people's opinions. You no longer give your peace away like a free sample to anyone demanding a piece of it. You protect it like the sacred territory it is, because it belongs to you and no one else. You're not cold. You're calibrated. You're not distant. You're deliberate. You're not heartless. You're disciplined. This is the new standard. This is your code. This is the place where chaos finally meets its match and loses. Comment this now. I don't follow peace. I become it. And from this very moment on, you move like a mind that cannot be shaken. Not because you're pretending, not because you're avoiding, but because you've trained for this, because you've earned this, because now you've become what they can no longer touch. Let this be the final truth you engrave deep into your mind. You were never meant to control everything. You were meant to control yourself, absolutely. Let them chase applause. Let them drown in noise. Let them burn out trying to fix what was never theirs to fix. But you choose clarity over chaos. You move with precision. You cut what doesn't serve you. You lead in silence, not because you're afraid of conflict, but because you've mastered the only war that ever mattered, the one within yourself. You don't react. You respond. You don't cling. You release. You don't explain. You execute. And now you walk. Forward, unreadable, unshakable, untouchable. Because when you finally detach from everything outside your control, you become unstoppable from within. If this message didn't just hit your ears but struck something deeper, if it landed in your code, then don't just like this video. Live it. Own it. Become it. Subscribe now for more high-performance Stoic training. Share this with someone you know who's bleeding out their energy on things they'll never command, and drop a comment right now. I control myself. I release. The rest. We don't escape the storm. We become the eye of it.